Hello, I'm Michaela Weaver and today is Time to Talk Day. So I was thinking about that and I thought that I would open up the discussion about alcohol. Let's see if we can bring it out into the open a little bit more than it has been. So the main focus of my off the top of my head talk today is the stresses and strains of alcohol. But whilst thinking about the day that it is today and that it's time to talk, I got to thinking about the fact that the vast majority of people who come to me and open up about their problems around alcohol. For a start, most of my clients are women. One of the big things that comes to the fore is that up until the time they've spoken to me, very often the problems that they've been experiencing around alcohol have been kept secret. They've not been talked about, and the reason for that is because there seems to be, there is so much stigma around alcohol and people not being able to control alcohol, like there's something wrong with that kind of people and the other kind of people are in control and they're therefore fine and there's nothing wrong with them. Well, one of the big problems is that a lot of these people here who portray the image of everything being fine are actually suffering the stresses and strains of alcohol, both emotionally and perhaps in unawares physically as well. And so it's a huge problem that we are unable to talk about the fact that clever, intelligent, successful people become addicted to a highly addictive drug, because that's what alcohol is. It's the second most addictive drug on planet Earth. And just like people who start smoking become addicted to nicotine, people who start drinking are highly likely over time to become addicted to alcohol. And for me in the past, and for my clients, and for thousands, millions of people out there, alcohol is causing massive problems. And one of the unnecessary reasons for the stress that it causes is just the fact that people are suffering, feeling very, very alone, and very often feeling like abject failures for not being able to get that control that they perceive other people to have. And we start to look inward and say, well, there must be something wrong with me. That's the conclusion, because when we are highly successful in many areas of our lives, and we have built up self-belief or self-efficacy, we know we can do it. And yet when it comes to alcohol, we just look at this and think, well, but I can't do that. So either it must be incredibly difficult, which therefore frightens me about actually trying to solve the problem, or there must be something wrong with me and I'm incapable. Either way, it seems like an insurmountable mountain, and we keep it to ourselves. So, Time to Talk Day. Let's get it out there and start talking about the fact that we've been sold a highly addictive drug for all of our adult lives. That's the basic fact of the matter. And many, many thousands of us have therefore become addicted. It's the only drug, and you've probably heard me say this before, but it's the only drug that we have to actually excuse ourselves from taking. You know, if that was heroin, we wouldn't be there saying, oh, do you know what? I'm on antibiotics, so I don't want any heroin today. But alcohol, which is actually a more dangerous drug than heroin, it's the most dangerous drug on planet Earth, according to Professor Nutt and mega studies. So it's all there in you know, you can Google it if you like. So it causes us stress because we don't talk about it. So today I'm opening it up and we're talking about it here, friends. So alcohol also causes us stresses and strains for a number of different reasons. One, when we try to control it and we start to become concerned and realize that actually the things we're doing aren't working, that causes us huge amounts of emotional stress and mental stress as well, because we start to question ourselves, as I've just said, and then it makes us feel bad about ourselves. Our self-esteem starts to suffer, and that causes us stress. And what do we do when we feel stressed? ... We reach for the bottle. That's what happens. So this whole cycle of alcohol causing us stress actually makes us drink, which causes us stress, which makes us drink, which causes us stress, and it goes on and on and on. So just want to touch on the whole concept of how we become addicted, because that's really, really important. And the reason for that is because alcohol hijacks our natural survival instincts and our natural biology, which, if you think about it, is ingenious. What better way to worm your way in than actually hijacking natural survival instincts? So how does that work? Well, we're programmed to survive, clearly, and we've done very well at that, because as a species, we're here today and we are thriving. And so what happens is that we are naturally lazy, as a species. And so we have to be motivated to get what we need to survive. And one of the ways that works, and that works incredibly well, is when we do something and we get what we need to survive, we're rewarded. We're rewarded by a hit of dopamine, which is a neurotransmitter released by our brain that rewards us for getting something that we need. And there's more to that dopamine cycle, because it also then teaches us that that's a good thing to do. And so that gets embedded in our subconscious mind. Now, that for our survival isn't enough. It's not enough for us just to carry on doing what we did yesterday, today, because we would never advance as a species. And like the advancements, as humans, we need to advance. We need to go to the next field to find the food. We need to travel to get what we need, right back at the beginning of time. And we are animalistic. And so that survival instinct works on our biology, because if we do the same thing, we get a less reward. And so we think, oh, but I want more reward. That's not enough. I don't feel good about that now. So you're motivated to do more of it. And when it comes to alcohol actually hijacks all that, smashes it apart. Because what happens is, after a couple of years of drinking, we think, oh, that's not touching the sides. I need more. And it's exactly this, what I'm explaining to you about our survival mechanisms that link into that. The dopamine levels that we get with alcohol just go down. And so we have more and more and more and more. And if we're on a binge, then we'll grab at it, trying to get that hit of dopamine that we've been taught. Remember our natural instincts, we've been taught to associate with it, but it's just not there anymore. And it can never be there where it was in the beginning, because our natural survival and biology won't allow it to be. It just won't be. And so it's the law of diminishing returns, which you may have heard. And so what happens is we need to drink more and more, and it has less and less of an effect. But there's more. There's always more, isn't there? When we drink, it slows everything down, and our bodies don't like that. Our natural biology wants to speed it all up again. So what it does in response to the slowing down depressive effects of alcohol is it releases hormones of adrenaline and cortisol into our bloodstreams. And that's stress and that's anxiety in a biochemical format. And so each drink that we drink releases, about 5 hours later, when we wake up at 4 a.m. feeling horrendous, it releases that into our bloodstream. And so we are feeling stressed and we are feeling anxious because of the fact that we've consumed alcohol. And the next drink we have partially relieves that by just numbing it all down again, only to plant more stress, adrenaline and cortisol, only to relieve it, only to plant it. And therefore we are addicted and we become addicted. And what we don't realize is that the very thing that we're taking to relieve our stress is causing it. And for many people, that's a huge learning. And it often, I find with the people that come to me, that alone is enough for them to sit up, wake up, start talking about it, and to take action. And so that's not saying anybody can be expected to say, right, I'm just going to stop drinking, because drinking is a psychological problem. The physical addiction of alcohol is felt every time we stop drinking for 24 hours or a couple of days, or if a binge drinker stops drinking for a couple of weeks, there is no physical remnants of alcohol left. it's gone. So we experience the physical withdrawal all the time, but it's the mental associations, it's the beliefs, it's the memories, the dopamine soaked memories. It's all, and it's a load of other things around that affect our biology, our neurobiology, our psychology. And it's there that the answers to sorting out this problem actually lie. And that's the beauty of it, because once we understand everything, and once we can unravel all of the stuff that's become raveled in a bundle of mess around alcohol, once we slowly start to unpeel the onion and unravel it, we can just release it all from us. You know, we can change our minds. We change our minds about stuff all of the time. And okay, when it comes to alcohol, it's a little bit more complicated because those reward systems are so embedded and well learned in our subconscious minds. But we can literally change our minds. But what stops us is that fear, the fear because we've concluded that it must be really, really hard, and the fear that we've decided that we must be inept at actually solving it, because that's what history has taught us, because we've tried to do stuff about it, we've tried to control or cut down or change our behaviour, and it's flunked. It's just not worked. And so there are three different kinds of, broadly speaking, people who come to me to want to find out more and to solve the problem, the riddle, if you like, of this whole situation. So in no particular order, there are people who are at the point where their health is suffering. And in the 40 plus age group, that is becoming a massive, massive problem for the health system in the UK, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, America, Canada, right across the English-speaking nations. Alcohol is a pandemic problem. And so people are presenting with health problems, and that is frightening. There may be people who've been to detox, maybe even have had to, hospital detox, who've been to rehab, who are really, really suffering from the physical symptoms. So there are those people who just panic and say, I have to stop. I have to do something, but I don't know what. To a certain extent, the don't know what doesn't matter. It's the decision to do something, and that's called agency. And that is so phenomenally important. With agency, you can change the world. Well, not literally, but you can make change once you wake up and say, enough. I have to do something. Even if it's just find answers, I have to do something. And what I've been doing hasn't worked. So there's those people number one, with the really serious health issues. And maybe you resonate with one of these groups. Then there are people who are high achievers, successful, who maybe run, do the gym, do all of this stuff and succeed, and yet alcohol has them beat for all of the reasons that I've explained. And it's just dragging them down. It's just making them, plain and simple, fed up, weary, dog tired of it. Highly successful, high achieving people waking up at 4 a.m. in the morning in floods of hysterical tears because of the biochemical effects of alcohol, but also the neurological effects as well. It's no fun. And so these people are just coming through the door in droves saying, I've had enough. I just want this to stop. And then the third group of people are people who, and they do intermingle. It's not a plain and simple categorization, but very, very broadly, when I've sort of noticed, the third group of people are people who care passionately about the people in their lives. Family people, people with relationships which are slowly disintegrating because of alcohol. And it's an insidious, slow thing that maybe even the people in those relationships haven't really been honest to identify the cause. But it affects husbands, partners, children, grandchildren, friendships. Because when we drink, we are never our authentic selves. Even on half a bottle of wine, we're not our authentic self. We're impaired by drugs. And if we're doing that regularly, then the stress and the sort of I'm struggling for the word, but the stress and the low-lying level of just unsettledness, agitation, that's the word I'm looking for, that agitation before we drink affects the way we are with our people. I used to come home from work and be really snappy, the children, and just me. And then when I had a glass of wine, it was better for a while. But then I passed that point, my second glass of wine, I wasn't my true self. And so I was never my true self. I was either agitated because I was getting ready for a drink, ready for that reward, motivated, dopamine and all that, or I was... And so at no point do your family, your loved ones, see your authentic self. And obviously at the point where we've drunk so much that we're just talking a load of rubbish, we've lost our true sense of judgment. We say things that we don't mean. We say things that we wouldn't say, even if it's just a little bit of an edge to it. Our loved ones are not getting pleasant messages quite often, and they're not getting authentic messages. We're not true to our values. We're not being true to the people in our lives, and that is massively damaging. And we make up in the morning and go, I didn't mean that, what you're telling me I said. I didn't mean that, or I didn't mean to go that far, or I didn't mean to say it like that, or whatever it was. And we may get forgiven, and then we'll feel better. And it's that cycle of guilt and forgiveness and guilt and forgiveness. It's just wearing. But also, I'm delivering this message to you now. We're talking because it's time to talk. And you're hearing me. Now, that is important. And that really matters. And it matters, I bet, to you. And so the fact that we wake up in the mornings and say to our loved ones, I didn't mean it, and by the way, I do mean everything I'm saying now, doesn't change the fact that we have said it. And they may love us and forgive us, but every single one of those deliveries affects and impairs that relationship. Because that person cannot trust us, and they begin to know that they can't trust us. And that's frightening for them. And it's not fair. It's just not fair. And so that's the third group of people who really care about their relationships and are either waking up to the fact or are aware, but aren't really admitting it, or maybe they just are admitting it and just want to do something about it. That's the third group of people, because they're just sick and tired of letting people down, and they care and they love, and they don't want to jeopardize that. So this is time to talk. Those are more or less the three groups of people who I find getting in touch with me, wanting support, wanting understanding, wanting to make a change, which is absolutely why I'm here. And that's phenomenal. And it's a huge, huge step to get to that point. And these people are all the forerunners. All the forerunners. Back in the 1950s, 80% of people used to smoke. Now, it's only like 16%, I think. So, in the UK anyway. So, it's time to talk. And therein, open this up so the shame and the stigma can dissolve. People get addicted to addictive stuff, and it's hugely stressful. So I am recognising that here with you today. If you want more support, join the free group, The Alcohol Coach. You may be a member of it already, which is hence you watching this. If you want additional support, then check out one of my programs. I'd love to see you on one of them. So for now, take care. Talk.